Shit I see these days, everybody constantly leaning on the excuse that mental health is why you didn't get your shit done. Like it's a free pass to be a fucking loser and not feel bad about it. It's like, nah, bro, you were hired to do a job and you didn't fucking do it. I am so sick and tired of these people who want to pretend that their feelings matter more than reality. You have no concept of what mental health is. Listen, bro, life is fucking hard, and you're not the only one. You're gonna have to learn to deal with it. It's becoming a fucking epidemic now where people think that the word mental health lets them off the hook. And it's like, look, the longer we let this shit go on, the worse it gets. Late to work, you didn't show up, didn't finish the project on time, right? Your boss wants to hold you accountable. Oh, well, I'm just struggling with mental health. So fucking what? You think life stops because you're stressed out? That's not the way it works. You think the world should take up your slack because you're fucking overwhelmed? When you take a job, you're hired to perform. And if you didn't, that's on you. Not on your boss, not on your fucking traumatic childhood, not your anxiety. You got paid and you didn't deliver. That's not mental health. That's called failing to fulfill your responsibilities. And look, I'm not denying that depression is real, right? But most of the time, it's not chemical, it's a behavioral issue. It's because you're not doing the shit that you're supposed to be doing with your life. You're eating shit food, you're staying inside, gaming all night, watching Netflix like it's a fucking full-time job, and then you're wondering why your life sucks, why you hate it. Come on, if you feel irrelevant, that's on you. And you feel that way because you know deep down, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You've got no discipline. You've got no purpose. No momentum. That's not mental illness. That's a life without meaning. No amount of therapy, no amount of meds, no amount of self-soothing and chanting mantras is going to replace the power of showing the fuck up and executing. And look, I'm not here to make you feel bad, but at one point somebody's got to say something. So stop feeling bad for yourself and harden the fuck up. You got one shot at this life. It's up to you to make it count. So I got a question for all you southpaws out there, right? Yeah, I'm talking to the lefties who are constantly trashing this country, and you're doing it while you're living off of every one of the freedoms that it affords you. Aren't you tired of the hypocrisy? You say this country is oppressive, but you never fucking leave. And apparently you hate capitalism too. But you worship all the corporate sponsors that put together your gay pride floats and these weird fucking parades you guys do. And it's clear that you believe in diversity, but only until somebody doesn't agree with drag queens reading fucking creepy books to toddlers in public libraries. Then you scream, sexism. But wait, I thought gender was a social construct. How does that work? And then you say men are useless. Society doesn't need them for anything. But then you also say that women are equal to those same men that you call trash. How's that logic work? What else? Oh yeah, you say Black Lives Matter, but then you go dead silent when it comes to the fatherlessness in Black communities, the gang violence, the collapse of actual communities. You don't give a shit about any of that, but you do love self-expression, as long as it's based on how somebody dresses, right? And the second that somebody speaks truth that you don't like, well, suddenly that becomes hate speech. Isn't free speech part of self-expression? Or is that only if it fits your script? You call yourselves tolerant, but you cancel anybody who disagrees with you. You say you believe in all women, unless, of course, she questions liberal logic, which clearly never makes any fucking sense. But nevertheless, you say diversity matters, right? That's important to you. But you fucks treat Black conservatives like they're traitors, and you think nothing of it. You call them racial slurs, you tell them to go home, and you do it all while you're preaching that borders don't exist. Everyone is welcome and we're all immigrants, right? None of this shit makes any fucking sense. And it's like you don't even stop and think about who's programming you. You just keep parroting the same shit. You scream equality, and then you riot when somebody says maybe dudes shouldn't be in women's locker rooms. And you start burning American flags. And when somebody calls you out on this shit, you scream fascism, or you call them a Nazi or a maggot. There's no dialogue, there's no curiosity. There's just censorship, blocking, and then you hide behind your private profile like fucking cowards. Meanwhile, you're living off handouts from the same government that you swear is corrupt. Hand down life lessons like some 14th century fucking philosopher. I wonder if you dummies ever notice that the people yelling the loudest about acceptance are the ones who accept the least. You call us dangerous, but it's your ideology that's sterilizing children. It's dismantling families, and it's lighting cities on fucking fire. And we're supposed to be the ones who should shut up and clap? Nah, bro, we never pretended, and we're not about to start now. We were just giving you a chance to act like adults, but you fucked that up, just like everything else. Now we're done playing nice. We're not going this. What's going on with the Guadalupe River, how it's flooding? families are stranded, and this is how it's supposed to be done, right? There's no waiting. There's no fucking bullshit. There's Blackhawks in the air within an hour. That's what's supposed to happen when leadership actually gives a fuck about the American people. You want to see the difference between real leadership and getting left for dead? Start with these floods. Perfect example. Families stranded. Water's rising. There's no time. Nobody can wait. Trump hears what's happening, and he says, whatever you need, just ask. And within an hour, Blackhawks are in the air. Rescue missions, right? They're launched. You got boots on the ground. No red tape, no delays, just action. Real shit. That's what it looks like when somebody gives a damn. But let's rewind for a minute. Think about Hurricane Helene. Same country, same kind of devastation. Totally different fucking response. Because when Biden was in charge, FEMA blocked helicopters. They delayed response for weeks. You remember that? They turned away private aircraft who were offering to do rescue missions for survivors. Meanwhile, they were sending billions of dollars of taxpayer money to Ukraine without hesitation while American citizens were told to fucking wait. Stranded Americans couldn't even qualify for a fucking $700 relief check. And they were sending billions to the Ukraine. People showed up from all over the country on their own dime. Tradesmen, even the Amish, they brought food, they brought generators, they brought blankets. Like I said, even the Amish rolled in to help to rebuild, and FEMA told them all to go get fucked. Turn around. They seized the generators. They claimed that they weren't authorized. What the actual fuck? And then it came to the permit bullshit, right? You got people sleeping in tents, kids without heat, no running water, and then they were told that they couldn't rebuild without FEMA approval, which, of course, they end up denying because their makeshift shelters didn't meet code. They didn't care that these folks had nowhere to go. This wasn't about public safety. It was about control. And while American families were struggling to survive, the same government that was cutting $700 checks was writing blank ones to foreign nations. I don't trust a politician as far as I could throw one, but clearly they're not all the same. Some leave you to drown. Others, they send fucking Blackhawks. This isn't about parties. It's about priorities. America first isn't some catchphrase. It's the bare fucking minimum. Because if our own people don't come first, then what the hell are we even? This isn't about left versus right. It's about them versus all of us. Hear me out for a second, because this country was never meant to be divided like this. It was supposed to be, I got your back, brother. You got mine, right? One nation, united. Not this media-fed circus that they've turned this shit into. But now we've been infected by people who think that they're entitled to our money. They use it to rip this place apart from the inside out. That's not freedom. That's fucking theft. And the craziest part is that we're the ones who are getting audited. We're the ones being bled dry by inflation, by fucking taxes and red tape, and all that shit happens while these corrupt fucking ass clowns in DC sit fat and happy, buying multi-million-dollar beachfront properties and $174,000 salaries. Like, what the actual fuck, bro? These aren't public servants. They're parasites, and they should be exposed, prosecuted, made examples of, because while they play games with power, real men are getting crushed. Real families are drowning. This isn't mismanagement. It's treason disguised as leadership. And don't think it's not affecting you. I don't care what zip code you live in. This shit is closer to you than you think. It's time to wake the fuck up. It's wild how bold people are in private and how silent they are in public. They'll say shit behind closed doors like, yeah, man, this is crazy. But they won't say a word when it counts. And that's the fucking problem. Because when people stay silent, it makes it look like the only ones who actually believe in truth are a handful of us yelling into the wind. But the reality is, most of us are tired. We're tired of being blamed, tired of being judged, tired of being force-fed all this weird woke shit that goes against our morals and our values, right? But here's the thing. We're not alone. It's just that most of us have been bullied into keeping our mouths shut. Keeping our mouths shut is what got us here. You don't fight back by keeping the truth to yourself. You fight back by standing up and saying, you know what? Enough is enough. We're done being called racist, bigoted homophobes. We're not homophobic. We're just sick of you trying to force your weird lifestyle down our fucking throats. And then they try to tell us that they're the ones who are under attack. Fuck these people. We just want to be left alone, but they keep pushing this shit in our face. And then they're surprised when we all eventually tell them to shut the fuck up. People are done being shit on by the woke left mob. We've wisened up. We're tired of being talked down to. And that's why people are finally saying, listen, I don't give a fuck what you think anymore. Do whatever the fuck you want, but keep your weird shit behind closed doors and away from the kids. We're done being blamed for your mental illness. You guys see this? Antifa, fully armed, wearing tactical gear. They just opened fucking fire on federal officers at an ICE facility. Let that sink in. okay? They didn't show up to protest. They showed up to kill federal agents with AR-15s. And these are the same people who claim to be anti-violence, right? This is what iPad parenting and media-fed delusion looks like. Weak minds get radicalized. Terrorism becomes fucking activism. Mental illness gets labeled as bravery, and chaos gets rebranded as social justice, whatever the fuck that is. But let me ask you this. Where's the outrage? Where's the media? If this had been a single conservative with a rifle and an American flag sticker on his truck, the entire country would be on lockdown. But because it's Antifa, it's silence. There's nothing to see here. The truth is, conservatives don't and won't do this kind of shit because we believe in law and order. We believe in justice for criminals. We support ICE and deporting people who enter this country illegally. Because there's a fucking process, and anyone can follow it. You don't have to break the rules to come here. ICE is doing their job, and they're primarily focused on removing violent criminals and sexual predators. And the fact that you'd rather defend rapists and murderers tells us everything that we need to know about your warped ideology. This wasn't about protests. These radical leftists, they want your kids brainwashed. They want your voice silenced. They want you disarmed and defenseless. And let's be clear, this was a fucking terrorist attack. And no, not everyone is equally to blame. You don't see conservatives suiting up to gun down feds. We're not out burning down Tesla dealerships and looting department stores. All of this chaos is coming from the radical left, and it's been tolerated for way too fucking long. We need to stop pretending that this is just going to blow over. It's not. We need to stop apologizing for having values and morals, because this war isn't just coming. It's already here. So stand tall. Keep your mind sharp. Protect your family. Speak the truth. And wake others up. Because these lunatics, they will stop at nothing to try to dismantle this country and destroy it from the inside out. Well, looks like I got to get on here again and remind the rainbow-haired radicals that we are not cut from the same cloth. We're not built like you. We're a different breed, especially from the ones who are bumbling around like unmedicated activists locked in a fucking Bass Pro Shop. Let me be crystal fucking clear here. I'm not here to coddle your feelings, your pronouns, or your half-baked delusions on how the world should operate around your feelings like you're the center of the fucking universe, right? Because fuck your feelings. We didn't start talking about politics because we wanted to. We just wanted to be left alone. They activated us. When rainbow-haired social justice warriors decided to shit on our morals and tear this country apart, spit on our values, mock our faith, twist the truth, and then try to torch everything that holds this country together, we didn't want this fight, but we're sure as shit not gonna back down from it, I'll tell you that much. Because conservative values, whether you fucking like it or not, they align with biblical principles. And let me break this down for you, for the ones who just still don't get it. And in case I'm not being clear, I'm talking about the triggered purple hair snowflakes watching this. All of our values, you know, all the outdated extremist stuff like family structure, personal responsibility, the value of life, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, they're all rooted in truth. Thou shalt not kill. Honor your father and mother. Train up a child in the way they should go. Those didn't just vanish because Instagram added pronoun options for your bios, okay? Your version of morality, it looks like the clearance rack at Spirit Halloween. It's cheap, it's confusing, and it's falling apart by November. We talk about protecting the kids. You let drag queens into elementary schools and you call it empowerment. You want freedom of speech, but only if everybody agrees with you. And if they don't, it's hate speech. And you want it erased. You say trust the science, but you're out here saying shit like men can get pregnant. Come on. You chain yourself to a tree to save a bird and then celebrate late-term abortion like it's a fucking block party. Your morals are rotten. And your delusion of tolerance and acceptance is full of death threats. It's full of censorship, cancel mobs, and emotional toddlers with megaphones. That's why we're here now. Not because we want to be, but because you left us no choice. That's exactly why people like me got off of the fucking sidelines. We wanted to mind our own business, take care of our families, tend to our land, barbecue real fucking American steaks, and have a few cold ones. But you wouldn't leave us alone. We didn't ask for a culture war, but you brought one to our doorstep. You stripped away morals. You attacked families. You confused kids. You tried to rewrite history. Psalm 94:16 doesn't say wait and hope. It says, who will rise up against the wicked? Who will stand for me against evildoers? I will. And millions more like me will too. We are not the same. We won't fold. We're not going to coddle you. We're not going to argue over your feelings, and we sure as shit aren't going to apologize for telling the truth. You took it too far. We are the last line of defense, and we're not backing down. Most people are miserable. I mean, just fucking miserable. It's because They have no standard, no code, no line that they've drawn in the sand. They just drift. One day they eat clean. The next day it's pizza and fucking excuses, right? One day they're locked in, eyes on the target. The next day they're binge watching shows like discipline is optional. It's not the way the world works. At least not if you want to have a life that's worth living. And that's the fucking problem. You can't build a legacy on half effort and part-time commitment. It doesn't work like that. The standard is the fucking standard. You either live by it or you become the kind of man who folds the second life gets inconvenience. You want to win? Build your life around non-negotiables. Your word is law. Your reps get done. Your values don't shift just because it's uncomfortable. That's how you become untouchable. And I'll tell you something. It's not because you're the strongest. It's not because you're the smartest. It's because you're the only one left who's still standing when the smoke clears. And the truth is, it's easier to get ahead now than any time before because most people are just straight up fucking lazy. So any effort that you put in puts you ahead of the crowd of people who expect life to be rolled out on a red carpet for them. It's not the way it works. Say what you mean, do what you say. The standard is the standard. That's it. Start acting like it and grab life by the fucking horns. Nobody's gonna build your dreams for you, brother. Now get out there and fucking win. You guys see this? I guess Tim Kennedy just admitted that he never earned the Bronze Star with valor. And that's after years of implying that he had. Right? He said it himself. He said there's no excuse for it. And he's right. What he did is completely inexcusable. And we could stay on this all day. But since we're already talking about medals, let me tell you the thing that really pisses me off. Let's talk about this Presidential Medal of Freedom. You remember all this, right? George Soros, Hillary Clinton getting medals of freedom? Like, you mean to tell me, after everything this country has been through, George fucking Soros and Hillary Clinton get one? Like, are you fucking kidding me? The woman who left our soldiers for dead in Benghazi when she had the power to stop it and then laughed about it, she gets one of these medals. Okay. The guy who funded the flood of illegal aliens and our open borders, same dude who poured billions into dismantling our judicial system. This is the guy who installed radical leftist judges and prosecutors all over the fucking nation. And then he backed the DAs that let violent criminals walk free. This guy gets a medal, right? Okay, that makes sense. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, that ain't a medal. That's a stamp of betrayal. You know who should have gotten medals? I'll tell you. The people who stood their ground during COVID when the government tried to lock us in our homes. Those are the people who should have gotten medals. The moms who said no when the state came for their kids. The people who lost their fucking jobs and closed down their businesses because they refused to comply with tyranny. Those are the people who should have gotten medals. The parents who refused to mask their children. The ones who refused the experiment, who protected their families even when it cost them fucking everything. Because that's what real freedom looks like. Not some fucking podium photo with the parasites who sold us out. Now, as far as Tim goes, he did what he did. Can't take it back. The best he could do was offer his apology. But I think a lot of people are still furious and won't accept it. You're a fat fuck. It's because it's intentional. It's planned. Like, you look at these food companies and the way that they have everything structured. I mean, if you didn't know this, back in 1986, R.J. Reynolds, I think it's R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris, they took over the food industry. Obviously, you know that the cigarette manufacturing companies, the tobacco industry, they've put chemicals in the food, chemicals into the cigarettes that made people addicted to them, right? But then they took over the food industry. They bought out Kraft, they bought out General Mills. And when they did that, they started infusing the food with the same chemicals that make people addicted, but that's not it. They also started using anti-satiating chemicals so you don't stop eating when you're fucking full and you just keep horking down fucking hamburgers and cheeseburgers and bags of chips like a fat fuck. But here's the reality. They do this in conjunction with Big Pharma. So Big Pharma, whatever diseases you don't accumulate through the function of overeating and eating all the processed foods that are laced with chemicals and additives and fucking bullshit that gives you all kinds of horrible diseases. Whatever diseases you don't pick up from the food, you pick it up from all the vaccines, right? I think there's 92 vaccines that are on the vaccine schedule now. 1986, same year, 1986, there were 11, I believe. 11. So imagine what that means. Oh, buggy. Oh, man. Nothing worse than a French bulldog fart. So hear me out here. They did this on purpose. They want you fat. They want you sick. They want you to be dependent on the system. It's a revolving door where they get you sick. They number one, they start plugging you with vaccines from the time that you're 6 months old. And these vaccines, they make you sick. They give you diseases. And then your reliance on the medical industry so that you can subside the symptoms that you're experiencing. But then throughout childhood, they're feeding you bullshit. I mean, look at the baby foods. The baby foods have carcinogenic chemicals at levels that are 3,000% higher than what they accept in the fucking tap water. Somehow that's okay in baby food, right? But you look at the food industry and you're feeding these children Cheerios and Doritos and popsicles and all this fucking garbage, and then you wonder why these kids are overweight. And that just continues on into adulthood. And people get fucking lost. They don't even realize what's happening. They don't even realize they're being manipulated into eating this shit and getting fatter and then going to the gym, trying to fucking lose the weight, and ultimately just being stuck in the cycle where they're buying prescriptions after prescriptions after prescriptions and paying for the same medical insurance that puts them in this fucking trap that they can't ever get out of. That's the reality. If you want to know why you're a fat fuck, that's it. See this? I guess ICE did a raid over at a weed farm the other day in Camarillo, California. Right? Protesters were already there on site, probably tipped off by some commie government insider, and they claimed that they were there to stop ICE from rounding up women and children, right? And then they started hurling rocks and bricks, firing rounds at agents. These people are unhinged lunatics. And before you get your panties in a twist, understand this. Over 300 people were arrested. 14 of them were undocumented minors who were working on site. This wasn't about families, and it sure as shit wasn't peaceful, I'll tell you that much. This was violent chaos tied to illegal entry into our country and forced child labor. That's what we're letting across our borders. And for those of you who blindly support illegal immigration and you say things like borders aren't real, let's take a look at how the rest of the world handles people who cross their borders illegally. Let's take Japan, for example, right? You go to Japan, you enter illegally, they put you in prison. They blacklist you for life, and you spend months in solitary confinement. That's how they deal with you over there, right? What about Saudi Arabia? Yeah, let's take a look over there. You get caught crossing their border, and you get fucking whipped. And you're going to spend the next 2 years of your life behind bars. That's how they do it, right? Russia, right? You cross the border into Russia, you do it illegally, they drop you in a forced labor camp where you spend the next 2 years of your life turning big rocks into little rocks, right? How about India? 8 years behind bars in a place that's like a living hell. Pakistan, 10 years. No legal aid, no help, just hard time. North Korea, you break in, you don't get deported. You get the off switch. I'm pretty sure they disconnect your head from your shoulders over there. That's what they do with you. But when it's America, when you cross the border over here, you get free housing, you get free health care, you get education, you get food, you get public transportation, you get cell phones, you get government checks, you get legal protection, you get a sanctuary city where you can even hide. You want to come here? Shit, I don't blame you. I'm not against immigration, but there's a process. It's simple. It's not complicated. And anybody could follow it. Do that and we'll welcome you with open arms. But if you break the law and enter our country illegally, there are consequences. Simple as that. No two ways about it. And before you start shouting about how these are good people who've been here 20, sometimes 30 years, paying their taxes, however the fuck that works, my response is simple. You broke the rules. You had 3 decades to make it right and you didn't. That's on you. And before you start crying about ICE knocking on grandma's door, maybe look up and see who they're actually deporting. Because it's not the little old ladies and the line cooks. They're rooting out violent criminals, and most of them are repeat offenders. We're not talking about parking tickets or traffic stops. So let's get it straight. The people who are being deported aren't exactly the types of people that you'd want to have over for a barbecue and share a meal with. I posted the other day where this guy was preaching about how we need to dismantle toxic masculinity so that boys can grow into safe and nurturing men. That shit right there is the fucking problem, okay? Like somehow being strong means you can't be nurturing. That's horseshit. A strong man's duty in life is to produce, to provide, and to protect. And now they just label masculinity as somehow it's the problem that's plaguing society, right? They've got people thinking that protecting your family and standing on strong moral principles makes you somehow dangerous. Nah, bro. The reason that society is falling apart is because they've spent decades vilifying strong men and intentionally trying to make them soft, to make them passive, to make them compliant. Because they knew that a society of strong men would never allow the kind of shit that's happening right now. That's why they went after masculinity first. That's what happened. And what's fucking wild about all this is that they've got people cheering this shit on like it's somehow progress. Like it's some brave thing. You neuter men by shunning them and shaming them to strip away their strength. And then you act surprised when everything starts collapsing. That was the point all along. They couldn't roll out this agenda of taking away everybody's freedoms and forcing us into 15-minute fucking cities while men were still grounded, disciplined, and dangerous in the right ways. So what did they do? Well, they flipped the script, right? They changed our ideals. They shamed strength. They shamed leadership. They shamed discipline. They labeled real masculinity as toxic so that we'd stay quiet, to make real men unsure of who the fuck we are. because they know that strong men won't comply. And if you haven't noticed, what they want is compliance, right? So that's why they did this shit. They want us divided. They want us disconnected. They want us passive, because the second strong men wake up and stop playing along, the whole clown show collapses. So yeah, that's why they attacked masculinity first. But we can rebuild. Else paying attention to what's going on over in NYC right now, or is it just me? Because we're literally watching the fall of New York in real time. And people still just don't get it. Did you guys see the story about this guy who's likely to become New York City's new mayor in November? Because, I mean, this shit is absolutely fucking wild. And here's the thing I don't understand. Why the hell do we have people who weren't born in America calling the shots in our government? What sense does that make? You move here, and then you try to reshape the country into the exact kind of mess that you supposedly fled from. Bro, if your whole mission is to make America just like the place that you left, then stay the fuck where you came from. We're not going to sugarcoat this anymore. This is bullshit. This isn't about skin color. This isn't about racism. This is about preserving the foundation of a country that already has its own identity. It already has its own values. It already has its own culture. And if you don't think that's under attack, look at this guy, Zoran Mamdani, the new Marxist lunatic who's probably going to be running NYC in November. The guy isn't even American born, and he's out here pushing radical left policies that'll turn New York into Venezuela with a whole lot more concrete. That's what it'll be like. He wants to gut police funding. He wants state-owned grocery stores. He wants rent freezes, which means that if you're paying a mortgage and you've got somebody in there paying rent, well, you don't get to collect that rent anymore. He wants to add a new tax to white neighborhoods. If that's not racist, tell me what the fuck is. He wants to terminate private property ownership so you won't be able to own a home in New York City anymore. It's going to be a fucking dystopian nightmare. And people actually voted for this fucking guy. All while regular people can't even afford to pay for groceries. They can't walk down the street without stepping on fucking syringes. And they can't protect their families in public places like subways because the system has handcuffed the good guys. You think that's all by accident? It's not. You think it's compassionate? It's not. It's strategic. You bring in outsiders with outside values and then you hand them the keys to the kingdom. What do you expect? Before you know it, the country doesn't even look like America anymore. It looks like the failed state that they crawled out from. And yeah, somebody I'm sure is going to say, well, you know, the founding fathers weren't born here either. Right. That was 250 years ago. Okay. Before we had a constitution, before we had our own culture, before we had fucking anything. And let me point something else out to the people who say that our ancestors were immigrants too. Okay. Understand this. Our founding fathers were settlers, not immigrants. There's a huge difference. They created the foundation for everything that we have today. They didn't just land on Plymouth Rock and start demanding free shit. They created the culture that makes America what it is now. And now we're letting people who don't believe in it run the place. That's cultural suicide. So no, if you weren't born here and you don't fully believe in what this country stands for, you shouldn't be anywhere near our government. You guys see this? Probably not, because the media sure as fuck didn't cover it, I'll tell you that much. But starting in September 2025, this year, the World Health Organization, the WHO, they're about to have binding authority over your life. And nobody fucking told you. Your leaders signed the deal. You didn't vote. You didn't consent. You weren't even in the fucking room. And that's exactly how they wanted it. Under the new amendments to the WHO's international health regulations, Geneva can now declare a global health emergency in your country, even if there's no outbreak happening where you live. Let me just say that again so it sinks in. A group of unelected bureaucrats in Switzerland can decide that there's a threat. And then they can lock down your city, they can restrict travel, and they can override all of your fucking rights. And what the fuck are you going to do about it? Your own government already agreed to it behind your fucking back. And it gets worse. They deleted the requirement that these emergency measures respect your dignity, that they respect your human rights, that they respect your fundamental fucking freedoms. Straight up just removed it. They scrubbed it clean. Now it's just some vague bullshit about equity and solidarity, whatever the fuck that means, which is code for, hey, shut the fuck up and comply while we take everything from you. That's what they did. This isn't some conspiracy bullshit. This is public record. You can look it up for yourself. But nobody's talking about it because they want you dumb. They want you distracted. They want you obedient. And while you were busy arguing over gender flags and who misgendered who, they were signing away your sovereignty with a fucking smile. And when this hits, when they roll out the next emergency, guess what? You'll be stuck explaining to your kids why they're getting scanned to go to school, why every one of their movements is being tracked and monitored, and why your freedom suddenly needs a fucking QR code. See, that's what they meant by public health. It's not about saving lives. It's about controlling yours. So don't come crying when the next wave of bullshit gets rolled out and no one can stop it. Because this time, you weren't asleep. You just didn't do a damn thing. Stay sharp and don't trust a single motherfucker. I see this clip that Theo Vaughn reposted. It's from last year in his podcast where JD Vance said, you know what, we need to release the Epstein list. This is important. That's what he said. Plain as day. Not maybe, not if, not someday, just do it. And obviously that clip is going viral right now because everybody knows that either the system is completely fucking corrupt to the core or something's taking place behind the scenes. Like, I know what I'm hoping for. And I'm not here to make excuses for a guy that pulled a bait and switch on his campaign promises, but hear me out, because this goes way beyond flight logs and secret lists. Maybe this is about leverage, global, untouchable, nuclear fucking leverage. Maybe this is about using the same tactics that created the Epstein files in the first fucking place. Blackmail. It's the most powerful currency on earth. Now, just hypothetically, let's just imagine for a second what that would actually be like, right? Let's say it's the day after the actual footage drops. I'm not talking about flight logs or redacted testimony. I'm talking about actual fucking footage. Think about that. Undeniable proof of world leaders, billionaires, global elites doing unthinkable shit to children. Not speculation, not theory. I'm talking about fucking proof. Full exposure. What happens then? Governments collapse. Markets implode. Cities burn. The whole system unravels because evil that deep, hiding in plain sight for that long, it shatters the illusion of order. And when you rip that level of power out of a corrupt system without a plan to control the fallout, you don't get justice, you get chaos. That's what happens. Now imagine, you're the one holding the footage. You could release it, or you could use it, not for money, not for revenge, but for leverage, to dismantle their networks, to force resignations, to neutralize the most powerful system of evil on earth without blowing up the world in the process. And if that's the case, that's not corruption. That's leverage to initiate controlled demolition, because leverage is the only way to dismantle an entire empire without blowing up the world along with it. And if you still think Trump is one of them, then ask yourself, why the fuck haven't they used it? If they had leverage, they'd have used it by now. But they didn't, because they don't. And yeah, I wish Trump didn't have to lie. I wish he could just say it straight. But maybe that weird off-brand behavior is the tell. Maybe this whole game isn't about MAGA versus the left. Maybe it's about taking down the most evil empire the world has ever seen without letting the whole fucking planet collapse around it. It's not about tweets or hashtags or who hurt your feelings. Maybe this is about power and how to use it. You don't take down the new world order with press conferences. I'll tell you that much. You do it with leverage. Silent, invisible, devastating leverage. Maybe it's just wishful thinking on my part. I don't know. I have no way of knowing. But I can tell you this. The dude has lost trust with a massive part of his base. He wouldn't do that unnecessarily. He's strategic. He's calculated. And the only other explanation that I can think of is that the Zionists have him under their thumb. And this is really it. He's along for the ride with us. And for the sake of this great American nation, I truly hope that that's not the case. But all signs seem to lead there. Just wow. I just saw a video of some guy who's trying to hand down life lessons while he's living on fucking food stamps and subsidized housing. And if you're watching this right now, let me ask you something. Isn't it interesting how the people who are screaming the loudest about who needs to be taxed the most, they don't even fucking work. They're not building anything. They're not employing anybody. They're not risking a goddamn thing. They sure should have a lot to say about how much you ought to be paying. Funny how that works, huh? So let me say this as clearly as I possibly can. If you don't contribute, you don't get a vote on this, bro. You don't get to sit on the sidelines collecting government checks, spending your day on Twitter, talking about how we should tax the rich more when you've never written a payroll check in your goddamn life. You don't know what it's like to stay up at 2 a.m. because your lease is due on your business. You have no fucking clue. You've never put your name on a loan to fund a dream that might blow up in your face. You don't even know what that's like. You've never carried the weight of knowing that you need to make sure that 10, 20, 30 families need to eat next week, and it's all based on how you perform. You have no fucking clue. So no, you don't get to tell the guy who's grinding 80 plus hours a week that he should give more while you sit your fat, lazy ass living on your EBT card, your food stamps, your Section 8 housing, glued to your government-issued smartphone, and contributing fucking nothing. You don't get to mooch off of the system and then demand more from the people who are the system. It's not how it works. Because let's be honest, without the workers, without the producers, without the job creators, there is no government check for you to skate by on, bozo. That's the part that you don't seem to understand. The only reason that there's anything to tax at all is because somebody bled for it. There's no such thing as free health care. There's no such thing as student loan forgiveness. There's no such thing as government-funded fucking anything. It is all taxpayer-funded, and that's what you don't seem to get. And while people like you sit on your ass and wait for your stipend, other people are filling up the coffers, busting their ass so you can drain them dry like a bucket with a fucking hole in it. So listen, if you didn't work for your money, the least you can do is shut the fuck up and say thank you. Because the people that you're trying to tax into the ground, they're the only reason that your lights are still. You are not going to believe this. So it turns out they actually created a hotline for all the unaccompanied minors that they were letting into the country over these last few years, which sounds like a great idea. I mean, most of these kids, they're being trafficked or they're being exploited or abused, so it stands to have a hotline. But here's the problem. They weren't tracking them. They weren't vetting the sponsors. They had no idea where these kids were going. So they said, hey, if anything goes wrong, here's a hotline that you can call. Again, sounds like a great idea, except that 65,000 of those phone calls went completely unanswered. Nobody picked up the phone. No callbacks, no wellness checks, no police units were dispatched, nothing. No follow-ups, nothing. And it gets worse. This was a call center that was specifically created to protect these kids, and 65,000 of them reached out for help, cried out for help, and nothing happened. How does that even happen? You want to know how many people they assigned to answer those phones? One fucking person. They handed thousands of vulnerable kids a number to call for help, and they left one person in charge of answering it. And those kids called. They called 65,000 times and nobody picked up. Nobody knows how many of those kids were abused or trafficked or lost to the system forever. And the last time I checked, this person still is employed by the federal government. If that doesn't make you want to tear the entire fucking system to the ground, I don't know what will. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't some tech issue where their phone systems went down. They just didn't pick up the fucking phone. And that's the Biden administration's version of safety. That's the system that they're defending. And while things have dramatically improved for the better, they're still out here saying things like, this is what you voted for. These weren't numbers on a spreadsheet. These were real kids, abandoned by their own families. And then they were abandoned by the country that claimed that they were going to help them. And nobody's going to jail for this. Nobody's resigning. No one's even pretending to be shocked anymore. That's the level of corruption that we're dealing with. But if you miss a tax deadline, if you speak up at a school board meeting, if you so much as question the integrity of these clowns, well, guess what? You're the problem. You're the extremist. You're the threat. Meanwhile, 65,000 kids who needed help got nothing. And these same assholes are patting themselves on the back like they were the compassionate administration. We'll never know what happened to these kids. And to be clear, this isn't about Biden versus Trump. The whole fucking system is corrupt to the core, and it needs to be leveled to the ground. We need a clean slate of real motherfuckers who will serve the people. Know how the ruling class has kept society on a leash for centuries? It's simple, and it's the same play that they've been running for thousands of years to systematically weaken the population on purpose, make people sick, drain their energy, break their will. So how do you do that? Well, you keep peasants on a plant-based diet. Why would they do that? Well, because the few need protection from the many. That's what it's about. And it's because the elites knew that a society of strong men would never put up with the bullshit that they pull on the rest of everybody. They knew people would revolt. And they knew that if they could dull them down, dull the masses, get them to forget their instincts, keep them docile, keep them tame, keep them dependent, then you can rule them forever. This is woven into every culture since ancient Egypt, since medieval Europe, since imperial China. It's different empires, but it's the same tactics. Control what the people eat, strip them of their strength, and that way they never stand up to the elites and they can keep them on a tether. Look at ancient Egypt. Only the priests and the royalty were the ones who actually got to eat meat. The masses only got to eat onions and barley and lentils. Imperial China, same thing. Elites, they got to eat pork, fish, organ meats, while the labor class, they got stuck on rice and vegetables. And medieval Europe was no different. The peasants were forced to live on grains and whatever scraps they could grow. Fucking rabbit food. Any one of these people tried hunting, they get hanged for poaching on the king's forest. And when the common folks started getting fed up with their bullshit, they'd sedate them with free food and entertainment to distract them. Just look at ancient Rome. When the peasants would start acting like they were going to create an uprising, they would ply them with bread and wine. You've heard the term. Sounds familiar, right? Because the Romans made it up. They made it famous. Feed them, get them drunk, distract them and keep them docile, controllable, pacified with stupid shit, and the cycle would continue. Same shit, different century. Never changes. And the ruling class, the elitists, they know that you'll just keep falling for it. That's the play. Generation after generation. Just feed the people with low energy food, keep them distracted, and you remain in power. Coliseum shows, gladiator fights, anything to sedate the masses. And while the peasants cheered for more of this stupid shit, the ruling class tightened their grip, and they made sure that nobody ever thought about revolting again. That's how they did it. Control their diet, distract their minds, drain their power, and it still works today. Look around. Things haven't changed. And here we are. Now you got Bill Gates doing his damnedest to try to eliminate beef from society. How crazy is that? You have any idea what a plant-based diet, a meatless diet does to your body, to your brain function, to your testosterone levels, to your willpower? It neuters you, and they know that. But the truly fucked up thing about all this is that they've orchestrated it well enough now to get people to actually choose that type of lifestyle on their own because they think that it's better for the planet, or they think that it makes them better than you. It's unreal, the level of unawareness that most of society has about how all this works. Meanwhile, they're walking straight into their own physical and mental demise, sleepwalking into extinction and calling it progress. It's time to wake this shit. They're calling for a nationwide ban on religious vaccine exemptions for your kids. Not just state policy, not case by case, nationwide. They want to remove your right to say no, period. And just so we're clear, this has nothing to do with health. It's about obedience. It's about killing off the last bit of autonomy that you think you still have left. They don't want you to be able to choose. They want to make it so that there's no choice left but their choice. Because once you say yes to a needle against your own will, once you allow them to override your beliefs, your instincts, your parental authority, you've surrendered more than just your rights. You've surrendered your future. And I don't care if it's just some school shot or some booster that they added last year. Fuck that. The second you justify forced injection, you're swallowing the whole fucking pill. This isn't about measles or mumps. It's about removing your ability to say no to anything. Because the moment that your right to say no disappears in one category, guess what happens next? They erase it everywhere else. It'll be no exemption from medical treatments. It'll be no opting out for contact tracing, tracking, no refusal of digital currency. You won't be able to say no to assigned health status records, social credit scores. It's all there. It starts with one thing. Will you comply when you know it's wrong? And if they can get you to tell yourself that it's just easier to go along with it, they've already won. They're not coming for the anti-vaxxers. Let's be clear about that. They're coming for the calm, quiet majority, the ones who won't fight. And you better believe if you don't take a stand here, they will keep going, full throttle. They're openly telling you your body, your beliefs, your rights, they don't matter. And if you still stay quiet after this, well, you probably deserve what's coming. And while they continue to vilify people who said no from the very start, we're not the danger. Let's be clear about that. We're the last ones holding the line. And if we fall, there's no coming back from this. Did you guys see this shit? So the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, right? She just jumped on Twitter to brag about how LA is on pace for the lowest homicide rate in nearly 60 years. It's like, yeah, no shit. You ever think that maybe that's happening because the president is deporting all the murderers who are hanging out in your city? Bozo? Wild how that works, huh? You get violent criminals out of your city and suddenly fewer people are getting shot in the fucking face. Imagine that. Like she's been down there personally talking to gangbangers and getting them to turn their lives around. Like this is the result of some community-led peace healing process that she put together. Give me a fucking break. The level of manipulation that comes out of this woman is nothing short of astounding. She's out there grifting the public into thinking that she's the reason that shit is calming down, while the guy that she hates is literally cleaning up the streets for her. She didn't do a damn thing. Trump did. ICE did. Law enforcement did. But she won't give them any credit. All Karen did was just tweet about it after the fact like it was her grand design. And here's the thing. These people fight tooth and nail against everything that is actually reducing violence. They demonize ICE. They defend sanctuary cities. They block deportations. And they call anybody who supports law and order a racist, or a xenophobe, or a fascist. And then they turn around after they check their crime stats and they take credit for everything that's been done. No, sweetheart, you didn't accomplish anything. The president stepped in, people got removed, and now you're standing on the graves of your own citizens taking credit for the dip in numbers. How does that work in your mind? It's not leadership. That's what parasites do. And this is what people like Karen Bass constantly do. They create a problem, they fight the solution, and then they try to own the result. It's theater, all of it. Karen Bass doesn't want her city safer. She wants applause. She just wants the payday. She wants to campaign on results that she had nothing to do with. These people are disgusting. And the truth is plain as day. When you remove criminals, crime drops. Go figure. It's not her policies. It's not her compassion. It's just Trump doing what he said he was going to do. And if she had it her way, the murderers would still be here. But sure, Karen, tell us more about how your leadership saved LA. Grifters strike again. This time it's not Hollywood. It's not Newsom. It's not big tech. No, it's a Sacramento charter school. It's their school board, and they just pulled one of the dirtiest scams that I can remember in recent history. The entire fucking board just resigned after they audited them, and they found $180 million of taxpayer fraud. Let me say that again. $180 million. Talking about fake students, six-figure jobs for friends and family members, luxury travel, and they billed it all to you, the taxpayer who was told that this was all about helping refugees. Yeah, right. Apparently, this was an adult school meant to teach English to Afghan and Ukrainian immigrants. Heartwarming, right? Except the students didn't exist. The results didn't exist. The entire fucking thing was a front to funnel money from a so-called charter school into private pockets. They literally created ghost classrooms. They padded the rolls, and then they used the money to ball out on your dime. And they made you feel guilty asking questions. Because if you say, hey, where's all this money actually going? Well, then they'll just label you as a racist, an anti-refugee, anti-education, a threat to democracy, right? Meanwhile, they're out here running a full-blown shell scam and they're using public education as the front. You see how this works? You see the game yet? This isn't about helping people. This isn't about refugees. It's not about opportunity or equity or any of the other bullshit buzzwords that they hide behind. It's about power, and it's about money, and it's about lining people's pockets and getting away with whatever they can in the state of California. And the grift never stops. From Sacramento to LA, the entire system is bloated with activist bureaucrats, fake nonprofits, and made-up school boards. And the people in California have no idea. They move their money around like Monopoly cash while their roads crumble and their schools rot and their living expenses explode. But hey, at least some politician's cousin got a 6-figure gig pretending to manage a refugee ESL program that never actually taught a goddamn thing. That's your money. That's your tax dollars. That's Californian progress. And the second you call it out, they act like they're shocked. Like you're the problem. Like you just don't understand the complexities of the system. Right. Okay. No, we all understand them just fine. It's a fucking racket. And they're not even hiding it anymore.